Welcome back to On the Light. I'm your host, Susan Johnson. Today's episode is especially meaningful to me because it was recorded in person in Pune during my recent visit to study at the Institute. My dear friend, Yemile Mizrahi, also joined me for this interview, making the experience even more memorable. This is the first in a series of conversations on the history of yoga. I arrived with what I thought was a straightforward question, but I was completely surprised by where Prashantji took the conversation. Rather than simply discussing the history of yoga, he turned the inquiry inward in a way I never expected. His response challenged me, and I think it will challenge you as well. I hope you enjoy this episode of On the Light. Thank you for meeting in person for this interview. I wanted to open up the topic of the history of yoga and taking a look at your book's Invitation to the Text on Yoga. You start in the first text on primordial yoga. If I could just read the first paragraph, then I'll ask you to expound on that. You write, "It is important to note that Patanjali was not the propounder, but an expounder of yoga as a system of darshana. Patanjali's text is basically framing yoga in a darshanic frame, or frame of systemized philosophy. Thus, the most important aspect of such as chakras, kriyas, sat kriyas of hatha yoga, mudras, and bandhas are not to be found, which take a prominent place in texts on Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra is in fact an ocean delineating all aspects of yoga, but Patanjali is the first and foremost in extracting darshana out of that ocean." So I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about that.
Okay. See, yoga primarily is something very subjectivistic. It is heading towards the self, knowing the self. And it is sometimes said it is self-search. Now, what do we search? We always search what is not ourselves. Something, a thing or a person. So I will be searching. I search what? I search something outside me, which is not me. It might be mine. It's not me. I will never search myself. It is perhaps self-stultifying to say that I'm in search of myself. People say it's all mad. If I say I'm searching my book, I'm searching my pen, I'm searching my key, no problem. So the history is so important with regards to oneself. See, what is our material worldly habit that we want to forget the negative past, bad past. We don't want to recall our bad past, inferior past, negative past, tormenting past. We want to set it aside the moment it surfaces. And we want to only remember our previous glory. Now, this is a major flaw because if we are going to study history of anything, you have to do it very objectively. You can't be biased. You must be very objectively studying any history. But the students of yoga don't understand that they should be objectively studying their own past. Everyone has a past, recorded past, memory stored past. But the mundane habit, worldly habit, is to any bad memory of the past surfaces, we brush it aside. And any good memory surfaces, we want to cherish it, ponder it, and try to create a dream world itself, where itself. And dwell in the dream world of your glorious past, a relishable past. And that is which is not relishable, but which is unrelishable. We don't want the memory to come to surface. In case it comes, we brush it aside. So it is our own history. At some stage in your life, you have to, uh, what you call as, have a reappraisal of your own history.
Mm.
What did I do 10 years back, 15 years back? Why did I do? How did I do? But then you will say, when I commenced my yoga 20 years back, my yoga was clumsy. I don't want to remember it.
Yeah.
This is not right. You have to know how you have taken a course of action. Because then you did not know that you were clumsy. Now you say I was clumsy. Now we say when I was a child, I was stupid, innocent. Or when I was young, I was weird, I was strange. So we just want to brush it aside. We don't want to linger over, we don't want to really understand. If we were crazy from there, and if we think we are not crazy today, we are wise, how did we traverse?
Mhm.
So in yoga or in spiritualism, if you have sufficient history of your pursuing yoga, it's not that you have done yoga for 1 year, then there is not much history. But when you say you are a veteran of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, why don't you take a review of your history objectively
Mhm.
without any bias? Because any history should be studied objectively.
Mhm.
So you have your own history in yoga. You have your own history in your spiritual pursuit. When that is sufficiently there, we have to open it out for ourselves. It is not sufficient that somebody started yoga with just a year back. It is not much history. But when you are doing for decades and decades, you have been motivated to continue some that.
Mhm.
How did you get motivated to continue? If you had realized that this is not good for me, you would have said goodbye long time back. But when you claim that you are a veteran of 20, 30, 40, 50 years, were you mad to continue it? Were you stupid to continue it? Were you crazy and cranky to continue it? Why did you continue? And therefore, we have to retrospectively go back to our own history if we have sufficient history in our pursuit, which usually people don't know it. They want to forget anything that is inglorious. They want to only recall that is glorious. And then create a dream world and move in the dream world, clouds of the dream world. So history in spiritual pursuit is so important, one's own history.
Mhm.
We have to be accepting our nonsense in our underprepared conditions, less prepared conditions, unprepared conditions. We don't want to remember that. So in spiritual pursuit, this is not allowed. You need to courage, you need courage to face your inglorious past. I was on the anvil. Why was I like that? How did, if I came out of it, how did I come out? So there should be reappraisal of the things which we don't want to remember, we want to forget. This is materialism. Forget that, forget that, forget that. Remember only good. This is materialism. This is not going to contribute for your spiritual pursuit. We must be unbiased. Let it be not good, let it be bad or good. I will objectively take it on the anvil on my operation table and I will try to dissect it.
Mhm.
How did I, if I thought that I found a way I had a breakthrough, how did I get the breakthrough? What was the breakthrough? So, uh, at times we should be critical as well about our lives, which we rarely do. We are never critical about it. So we need to be critical so that sometimes it is possible that we will become objective. But if you are avoid being critical to yourself, oneself, then it is very difficult to become objective. So that's implied. If you want to be objectively have your self-investigation, you can't be objective. You must be self-critical. You must prosecute yourself. Then there is a chance that you will be objective. So even history with regards to oneself in spiritual pursuit is important. If you have spent 8, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it must be done. Why did I do certain things 20, 30, 40 years back? What was the scenario? What was the situation? Many times they say, oh, I was stupid then. And then we want to brush it aside. Why was I stupid? What made me stupid? So the youth made me stupid. Why not admit it and why not accept it? So in spiritual pursuit, this history is important even with regards to oneself. So coming to yoga, yoga has such a long heritage and tradition. Why just remain concerned about yoga that is our time yoga, real time yoga? We all want to know what is real time yoga because we think that is real is not necessarily realistic.
Realistic.
Yeah, the real is real. So we don't want to go to a history of yoga prior to our era. You want to know what is yoga in my time. And that is being practical minded. And a person who is so practical minded loses the humanness. Those who are highly practical minded people, invariably, they lose the humanness. What is practical minded is to be advantage minded. There is no other meaning for practical mindedness. Material advantage. Advantage from my perspective, from my view. If there is advantage, then I take recourse to practical mindedness. Practical mindedness is grateful for human evolution. It is good only for business activity of life. But you want to be practical minded in business activity of life. But when do you have business activity of life? Only during your awakened state and business hours of your life. When you are not in awakeful state, where is the question of practical mindedness? So we have the states of consciousness such as awakeful, dormant, daydreaming, and the fourth one. So awakeful state is only locus or basis for you to be practical minded. You can't say, I slept practically. Or I slept with practical mindedness. That is an activity. To go to sleep is an activity. To be in sleep is an activity. But you don't say I am in a practical minded in my sleep process. Because when you sleep, metabolism going on, digestive system is working, our organic system is working, your breath is working, so many things are working. You can't be practical minded, then you won't sleep at all. Practical minded means advantage mindedness. This is start materialism. Why something is materialism? It is advantage mongering for oneself, in oneself. What is my advantage? And then I take recourse to practical mindedness. Then I reject so many things. Because in my view, I don't have advantage, so I will brush it aside or I will drive it away. I must identify my advantage in my own perspective. This is materialism. So the point is, history is so important Now we all know that our yoga came from Guruji. But why not have inquiry about from where did his yoga come? His yoga came from someone. He was not like a scientist who invents something.
Right.
So it was already there. It has been there. So why not go towards the history of that subject which you are pursuing? So we will know that there were different times. We know what is our time. But what was the time of your ancestors? Nobody bothered about it. And we just blame the ancestors for what they did, or we applaud them for what they did. But it is not objective applause or objective condemnation. It is in your view, it is good, and therefore you applaud. In your view, what ancestors did was not good, and you condemn. The condemnation or applaud is not objective. We should know what was the situation then, why our ancestors conducted in particular way. So we should understand the situation, scenario, the general conditions, and try to identify specific conditions that they underwent, and therefore they did what they did. But we are in habit of looking down upon the previous generations, and more so is the case uh, outside India. We always think, the whole world thinks that they are always better off than their ancestors. While we have the other way around, we say they were better. And there is a rate of depreciation in everything, moral value, political value, or value system itself. So a spiritually seeker person will be aware of this, that there has been spiritual depreciation. But even then, today, materialism is so stark that in our times, the younger generation will have something to blame the previous generation. Rather than giving any credit, they will be giving, they will be blaming. So many times the present generation uh, blames the parents even. Our parenting was not good. Our parenting should have been better.
Yeah.
But we don't understand in what condition they are there, what was the condition there, social condition there, or their financial economic condition. But we just blame them. This is usually this has been usually over the history. So new generation think previous generation needs an advice from us rather than a previous generation capable of giving advices. It's even present generation, they want to give advices to us. There's something to advise and nothing to hear from us. This is universal condition. It is not just particular country, whether it is Occidental or Oriental. So today, every present generation thinks the previous generation needs to be depending on our advice. But also it has happened in our time because of the technology evolving so rapidly. Within years, you are going from G1, G2, G3, G4, G5, G6, you are just going ahead at a very rapid pace. Naturally, the new generation goes to G5, while the parent perhaps they got to even G1 or had just crawled into G1, and now present generation is G5. So we have to understand, well, there was no G5 then. Not that they rejected G5, they did not have option. And we don't understand, we are not considerate. So in present time, the times are running faster. It is because of technology and greater weightage to materialism. Technology only helps materialism.
Yes.
Technology doesn't come handy for spiritual person.
Mm.
As much as it comes, because I can't say it doesn't come at all. It comes handy now. You have this modern technology
Right.
that you are using.
Yeah.
So it will come handy, but it doesn't really work so much for spiritualism, but it works for materialism with quantum leaps. The point is we have to turn towards, we should know. When we are students of yoga, it implies that we are also students of history of yoga. Because yoga has a history. And it has come long way in all these so many millennia. Yoga is not 100 years old or 400 years old. Like the faiths are there, Christianity was not there 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. It was just 2,000 years. Or maybe had Old Testament before that, etc. But how long will you go? You can't go to say 10,000 years or 100,000 years. But here is a case that it is, we can go back timelessly, retrospectively. And therefore, we must have see how this subject has been transmitted and how the core aspects have been retained despite eon after eon, year after eon passing away. And therefore, it is to be marveled as to how yoga has traveled and the genuinity of it, the purity of it has been maintained, although not in big proportion as they have come today, but still we can find the trace of quintessential aspects of yoga. Not that we have lost the trace of it, and we will never lose the trace of it, because these are eternal subjects. They don't need a protector.
Yeah.
And we think that we have to protect it. This is our ego that we should protect. You are protected by it. You need protection. They don't need protection. They are self-sustained. And that is why they are timeless. That's why we have concepts of sanatana, eternal. They don't, it might fade out, fade in, fade out, fade in, then what does happen? Might be, it will be not there for 10,000 years, but that's a bubble. On eternity of time, 10,000 years just a bubble. But for that, for us, it's a huge time span, 10,000 years. But for it, it is nothing like that. So there is fascinating history, how it was, what was yoga about, say, 500-600 years back, when we had some classical texts. Some classical texts, 1,500 years back. Some classical texts, 2,500 years back, 5,000 years back, 10,000 years back, 100,000 years back. We have still the text or parts of the text still available. What was the transition? How the subject has traveled, how it manifested in different forms. Like you as Americans are appearing like this today. But suppose this was 15th century.
Yes,
You would have been differently clad.
definitely.
So that will change.
Yeah.
So how somebody is dressed depends upon the time and space. So yoga might be dressed in different ways, but how the authenticity of yoga has been still maintained. So
It's comforting.
appearance in yoga might have changed time to time, Ramayana time, Mahabharata time, pre-Ramayana time. So that's only the difference in dress. You don't change if you even if you change the dress. Suppose you go out and come back clad in a sari and you come with all ornaments which Indian woman wears,
Mhm.
and you have your dress hairstyle like Indians. You don't change.
Mm,
The way you are dressed has changed and can change.
yes.
So we should know what is the dress. And dress is only a dress. But the person inside the dress doesn't change. You might be wearing Indian sari or you might be wearing Indian outfit or Indian makeup, makeover, etc. But you don't change, you remain to be Susan.
Mhm.
So something is not changing, although something has changed. So in order to, the student of yoga should be aware of that. What is it that has changed? What is it that has not changed? And why something has changed?
Mm.
So for why, for the change, there is a question why. But what is not changed? There is no question of that. Because it is going to be permanent thing, it is eternal, therefore they stay the same. So Susan is Susan. But why she has changed? Because Prashant is around, or Indians are around, Americans are around, American Gen Z are around, or American old people are around, your appearance will change. So why it changes is also a matter to be taken part of yourself, to be objective about it. Okay. The person had different appearance form. For these justifiable reasons, then we should not criticize, condemn. But the change was not for justifiable reasons, then we have to objectively consider that. So, what is the change of yoga? Has to be understood. Now, today we try to practice yoga as it is available today. We will not be able to identify how yoga has changed. Now, I for one, I've seen Iyengar yoga, or I know what Iyengar yoga was prior to 50s, 40s and 50s.
Mhm.
I have noticed the vicissitude in Iyengar yoga, which I have given the talk during the centenary celebrations, which I am asking to pull it out and put from YouTube.
Mhm.
I spoke on history of Iyengar yoga for Guruji's 100th celebration, graduation. So there I said there were some landmark points. When Guruji decided, or rather the student suggested he must write a book on yoga. So naturally he had to do some formal studies, research had to be done to write, pen down a book.
Mhm.
So how light on yoga changed his own thought process. If he had not written light on yoga at all, then that change would not have come. Some other change would have come. Not that person doesn't change. But he penned down light on yoga, so he seriously worked, he researched for writing a book. And therefore, there was a change in angle yoga. So that change remained for some time until the next book was in line, which came in 1978-79, Light on Pranayama.
Mhm.
So 66 to 79, almost there was no change. But when he decided to embark upon writing down Light on Pranayama, a different research, different kind of experiments. So he got oriented to different things. So he changed. His teachings changed. So that I have spoken of in the talk. Shortly, you'll be hearing it from YouTube. So either you go underwent. Now, when they went to West, then it changed.
Mm.
If we had not gone to the West at all, then I for one could imagine I have written down in the book which is yet to be published, which is with the publishers at the moment. I made a statement, if Guruji had not gone to the West at all, she would have differently manifested. If Guruji had stayed in his native place rather than coming to Pune, if he had taught all the natives in his own mother tongue, now he was deprived of mother tongue in his communication. Now this is uh, a great disadvantage. Because we think in our native language or mother tongue and we don't speak in that language when we are teaching. So this is a great disadvantage to us. We have to teach in English. We don't think in English. I don't think in English. I don't have dreams in English. So what is my dream language? Is my thought language. And the thought language is suppressed when you have to teach in English. So if Guruji had stayed in his own native place, Karnataka, Bangalore, we would have taught in Kannada. So that would have given good momentum, greater momentum, because otherwise lots of speed breakers, how to say this in English, what is the word for this in English? We have to fabricate our expressions. To say something in English, we have to fabricate the expressions. While in native language, it will be spontaneous. Now, if this is going on in my Marathi language, it will be spontaneous. I don't have to fabricate. Because my impressions are in my language. Now I have to surface it for it to manifest in English. So there is an interpreter in between. The interpreter spoils the spontaneity. So I have mentioned in that book, if Guruji were in Bangalore preaching for all the 70, 80, 90 years, he would have been totally different because he would have been with native people, the cultural gravity would have stayed on. But because he went around the world, these are the radiations of that culture, ethnicity definitely interfered with him. So he would have been different. Iyengar yoga would have been differently uh, manifested as on today. So by going to West, there were some advantages, there were some disadvantages. We must admit it candidly. We must weigh the advantages and disadvantages because of the journey of his life. There are both the things, pros and cons are everywhere. So I won't say it was only a disadvantage because he came to Maharashtra, then he went to Mumbai, and then he went to Hyderabad and stuff like that. Both the things are there. So history of Iyengar would have been different if we did not have any Westerners around him. So Western world was hovering around his mind, over his mind, and that's why his yoga suddenly changed. Now, whether it's good or bad is a matter of assessment for a historian.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
You were talking about the changes of yoga. I was wondering if there's a difference between change and evolution.
The change is something which is cannot be replaced. Nothing is constant as change. Nothing stays as change. The change is inevitable, but all changes don't necessarily mean evolution. Evolution is a particular kind of change because the change can devolve as well. The change can devolve, change can create statism, stagnant, like stagnant water. But the change is going to be there. Change cannot be prevented because we are moving in time and space. When we are moving all the time in time and space, there is no way that something will not change So yoga will be changing in any case. But it has to be taken cognizant or assessed whether the change is evolutionary or revolutionary, or sometimes neither of them. It remains like a pawn and static for some point of time, then it will lose the significance. If something is stagnant, after a while it loses the significance. The change is inevitable. But evolution is a different process. It requires a kind of thought process investment. It requires foresight. It requires insight and foresight. Then only evolution can be perhaps on track. But if you don't have insight and foresight at all, and just you are going by like the things flow in wind.
Mhm.
So whichever direction the wind takes, the train will be flowing in that direction. So evolution, the change is substrate of evolution. If something is not changing at all, then you can't evolve. But the change doesn't ensure that there is evolution. It can also result in good evolution. But change is the truth of the universe.
Mhm.
It is truth of the nature, primordial matter. It, it is uh, ever changing flux. That is what is the term for Prakriti, what we call as matter. Rendered into English, it is matter. But Prakriti is Shubhita, always changeful. Nature is always changeful. Nature will be never freezing. If something is freezing, then that is not nature.
Mhm.
So yoga will have changes. Now we'll have to be uh, objectively trying to understand whether it is up or down. There can be down coming up, it should be temporary. So when you are traveling on a terrain on a road, sometimes it is downwards, sometimes upwards. You cannot ensure that will be all the time plain and not going up and down. But it is going to be up and down, but generally the trend should be up for evolution. Downs will come. And therefore the history of uh, yoga, particularly any spiritual subject, we must know why the thing was like that 100 years, different than today. 500 years, different than 100 years back. And uh, that will give us wisdom why the changes take place, whether justifiable reason or unjustifiable reason. If it's justifiable reason, then we should not have grudge.
Mhm.
And we have to understand. So we will also know that maybe such a vision will come hereafter, and maybe there will be temporary kind of uh, dilution of yoga. So the view of history is very important with regards to oneself as well as with regard to a very subject which is being pursued.
Mhm.
So how yoga was taught is taught today, how yoga was taught during Krishnamacharya's time, how it was taught when he was a student. And this is something which will give us some wisdom,
Yes.
provided you are objective about it and not having condemnation. Oh, anyway, that was not, anyway, past is always bad, future will be always bright. This is bright, this is not right. Anything can happen, fluctuation and there. So we should know the vicissitude, how the yoga has come to us today.
Mhm.
That is the important thing to consider, not what yoga is today. That is for consumer. If they will look for what is yoga today, if it is good, I will do. If it's not so good, I may not do. If it is bad, I will not do at all. So when you pursue yoga for a lifetime, you don't want to do yoga something like you do so many things in life which are for a particular phase in life.
Mhm.
Why are you not playing with the toys now? But you played with the toys, was nothing wrong. Now you play with the toys, it is not right. But why do you don't play with the toys now at all? Why are you not fascinated if somebody brings a package of chocolates? But what happened to you when
Yeah.
you were dancing? Somebody gave you a box of chocolates, cookies and chocolates and confectionery. Well, that's how the child reacts. Perfectly right. You should not react the same way. Why the change happens? Why the change happens, and is it justifiable? Is it to be admitted or not admitted? This is required for a wisdom process. So how was our yoga? If you have done 40 years, how was your yoga 10 years back? Why turn your back to what you did 20 years back, 30 years back, 20 years back? Why turn your back and just be forward thinking, how I will do tomorrow, how I will do tomorrow? Your tomorrow is based on today, and today is based on yesterday. Yesterday is based on its yesterday. So if you want to really have grasp and objective understanding, you can't neglect and overlook retrospective times. You must get them on the annual. Why did I do something 10 years back? So today we have to investigate and prosecute our youth. If we are gone beyond past youth, we are all adults. We have to objectively get it on the anvil. How did I conduct myself while I was in youth? So you will see that there is something to ridicule yourself.
Yes.
And then you will understand why did I do something ridiculously. So it has to be justified. But we have to understand how do we conduct ourselves when we are in the teenage, youth, etc., child, etc. So about this childhood, we say we will never say I was intelligent. We will say I was innocent. So not being intelligent cannot be blamed. But if you are not innocent as much as expected, then you have to blame your childhood. I was not as innocent as should I be. So objectively, it has to be definitely considered. Don't just practice year after year after year and say that now I am 40 years and 50 years of practice. Don't be unsighted about that and try to get it on the annual. So in spiritual process, you have to get your past on the anvil and investigate, probe, prosecute if needed. Just don't say, past is past, let me forget, let me forget. This is not right. Because suppose you have done something to me, why do you come tomorrow and say, I'm sorry? Today you don't realize you have done something for me. But then tomorrow you realize I did something wrong, and tomorrow you come and say sorry. You can't have this escape. Anyway, I did yesterday. So why should I say sorry today? This is not right. The burden from on your mind will not go away. So if you have committed blunder 10 years back in yoga, admonish yourself. Atonement. See what can be done. Why do you come? Why will you come tomorrow and say, oh, very, very beseeching? Oh, I'm very, very sorry, very, very sorry. You don't just send a note. I'm sorry. You have something to express. That will relieve you of your pressure as well. And it will also work for reconciliation between you and me. But if you don't say sorry at all for which you should have said, then the reconciliation will not take place and our relations will be strained. So you have this Thanksgiving Day, as you observe. So we have to really be identifying that something I have to have as a sorry day.
Mhm.
And say sorry to people for right reasons. And maybe I will not know why, what, in what way I have ill-treated them.
Mhm.
Maybe I will not identify, I don't know. You have to tell me, I had ill intention. I came that way, that's why I said something. Perhaps I was not hurt,
Mhm.
but then it is better that you candidly say that I came with ill intentions. I did something, and therefore I apologize to you. You should be apologetic to your previous stage in life as well.
Mhm.
Don't say anyway it was past.
Yeah.
You won't reform. For you to reform, you should be apologetic to your own past. But if you turn your back to your past, then where is the question of being apologetic? That's why you must turn to our own history. And being students of Adhyatma or spirituality, we must be curious how the things were in previous era. Can anything of that era be taken today? But if you lose the connection with the past, then you will not be able to have it today. But if I know that 1,000 years back yoga was being done like this was the idea, concept, notion, or uh, fundamental of yoga, can I take it today in whatever way to whatever extent?
Mhm.
But if I turn my back towards it, then I'm deprived.
Mhm.
So maybe because of certain things, we have neglected that glorious aspect of yoga. 1,000 years back, 5,000 years back. But if you are aware of it, you have identified it, then you will think, let me try to incorporate it. That's why the history of yoga is so important. So the present is it has such a stark presence, existence, that the past, we are blinded to past.
Mhm.
The present will be always so high resolution. Like at this time in this at that of the day, all those stars and starry constellation are yet in the sky.
Mhm.
You don't see because of the brightness of the sun.
Mhm.
Why are you see them at night? Because the sun, brightness of the sun is not there. Therefore, they can be sighted. Now they are very much there where they will be at night. We don't sight them. Similarly, the presence is like sun. It is dazzling.
Mhm.
Either it is sorrowful or it is delightful. It is dazzling. So unless you have even-mindedness, that means you can go to planetarium and you can sight away the sky of Pune today.
Mhm.
Which star is where? So it will tell you that this star is here, this star is there. So you go to planetarium and you get to know where the stars are at this point in time. But otherwise, if you are with naked eye, the sun is so dazzling that you cannot even imagine that they are there. So the past must be taken for reading. Our past as well as past of yoga. Anything to be taken, let me try to see how I can take it. But if I do not know, where is the question of taking it?
Mhm.
So therefore, we must look into the history of yoga, how it was. Maybe there were better times for spirituality in past, or worse times than we have today. So all that will be in perspective, understood in perspective, and we will see what should not be taken and what should be taken.
Mhm.
See, when you are introduced to a person, you want to see, really know the history of a person at some stage. It's not hello, how do you do, and walk away. No. When you are going to be interacting with a person, you want to know the history of the person. When you are doing yoga, why don't you understand that it is also equally important. If you are going to stay with that person, how will you neglect the history? You should know the history and then try to understand the pros and cons and try to understand helplessness or the fault of the person or lack of fault of the person, etc. should be identified. So what you are practicing, you must go to history of that as well. That is in any discipline. It can be art, it can be music, it can be whatever. Taking support of history is very important. Now that's not being practical. Why you are wasting the time? Why you look at the history of whatever music, this and that? It is a waste of time, you will say. But it is needed for you to really pursue your endeavor. History is very important. And then you realize history repeats. How will you know whether history repeats or doesn't repeat? If you do not know the history, how will you know it is repeating? And the whole thing is create cycling. So the hands of the clock will come back to where it is today after 12 hours. It is going to repeat. But if you don't take cognizance of it at all, you will not know that it is repeating. If you know it is repeating, you will have strategy. If you do not know something is repeating, why will you strategize? So if you think you have to come back to Prashant again, you will have a strategy. But if you have decided this is first and last, so you don't have strategy. So it is awe-inspiring to see how the subject, how it has gone through different eras and eons and times. What were the upheavals or what were the uh, protagonizing conditions which are absent today? Then if we identify that, how can I create that today?
Yeah.
Like suppose it is very warm, you have an air conditioner here. You would say anyway it is warm. You do something, you take a measure. So you know there is option of having air conditioner. And you will find the present hot condition, hot temperatures by having air conditioner. So if you know that air conditioner 21 degrees is wonderful, 20 degrees is wonderful, you can today have it even if it is 40 degrees outside. You can have air conditioner. So if you know what was protagonizer then, can I create it virtually? If not 100%, maybe 70%, 60%, that will facilitate. So like air conditioner, we go for time conditioners.
Yeah.
We don't have that time today, but that time was there. So to what extent I can create a virtual presence of the time? It cannot be did to 100%, it might be depreciation, no problem. Here I have advantage. I've got it only 70%, no problem. But protagonizers are in place, I will have better condition. What were the antagonizers? Can I keep them at bay? Yes. You can have air conditioner, you can heater, you can have cooler. So just as for climate and weather, we have these conditioners. Similarly, about the tides, eras. Then now you are here, you know you are here. But suppose it is total blackout. You will not know that you are here. You will not know where you are. Suppose I blindfold you and take to somewhere else. It's all pitch dark everywhere. You will not know from where you are gone where. Only when I open your eyes, I will give illumination, you will know that from here I will to Prashant's room. So that's why going towards history. So if you are less and if you are intelligent enough, you can virtually create that condition, if not 10%, even 5-10% will work a lot. And actually, with reference to spiritualism, this is very important statement I will take now. When you are in yoga, you are not in real time.
Hmm.
It is not 2026 when you are fast asleep.
Mhm.
It is not Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday when you are fast asleep. So whether it is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whether it's 2020 or 26 or 29, doesn't matter when they are fast asleep. So yoga is something that you are not in the deconditioning factors of time and space. It doesn't matter whether you are sleeping in Pune or in San Francisco when you are fast asleep. Yoga is a state of consciousness, and therefore nothing is uh, improbable. Now you will say temporarily it's improbable to be doing yoga as it was in 18th century, 16th century, 15th century. That's not the case in yoga. You are not caught in the time and space that you are physically in, like in a state of sleep. It really doesn't matter whether it's 20th, 21st century or 20th century or 15th century or 10th century. It doesn't matter. Whether it's Monday or Sunday, doesn't matter. Whether it is US or India, it doesn't matter. Fast asleep. Yoga is such a state, so nothing is impossible. So if you know how the history or how the salient features of yoga were then, it is possible that you can revive it. There is a very chance that you can revive it back if you are in yoga. Because yoga is a state of consciousness where you don't have delimitation. You are not man, woman, young, old, strong, weak, occidental, oriental. You have no ethnicity. You don't have belief system exercising gravity on you. Akin to sleep. In sleep, no one is Christian, no one is Hindu. No one is Occidental, no one is Oriental. No one is man or woman. No one is stupid or intelligent. No one is rich or poor. No one is healthy or unhealthy. Yoga is such a state. And therefore, if you know the history of yoga, and if you think that yoga was just in a pristine condition, you can get it today even. Because you are free from gravities.
Mhm.
So when you are in zero gravity, you can have it. But if you do not know what is that pristine or virgin yoga, even if you have zero gravity, it won't come to you. You should know what is virgin yoga, pristine yoga. So if you are in zero gravity, it can be had. Therefore, looking at Krishna's time, it was like this. When you are in yoga, it is not 5,000 years post Krishna.
Mhm.
So human consciousness is a marvel, and yoga is one of those states. So what modern neurology speaks of fourth state of consciousness: awakeful, dreamy, dormant. These are three, and then there's the fourth one, which we said Turiya in technology of yoga. That is yogic state. So twilight state. Otherwise, you say, "Oh, today it is not possible." There is no question of today at all when you are in zero gravity.
Mhm.
Ask your Sunita Williams, who was in space for such a long time. Did it matter whether it is summer or winter or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or January or March? It didn't matter in outer space. You don't have all this. There are no 12 months. There is no day and night when you are in outer space. So she was in outer space for such a long time. She stayed in zero gravity for such a long time. So we don't have to say, oh, this is not possible today. Because otherwise, they say, today it is not possible. Yoga is such a field, nothing is impossible. So you should know what is that you are saying not possible. It can become possible. You say it is not possible because of the time and space. But we say if you transcend the time and space, then there is no limitation. But if you do not know what is timeless and spaceless yoga, if you do not know at all, then how can you have it? Have it? So yoga in different eras are available in different texts, which were penned down in different times. Upanishadic yoga, maybe 5,000 years back. And yoga during Swapnaram time, yoga during Dheranda's time. So these were different times. So we will know how yoga was there. Like Patanjali speaks about Ashtanga yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, and Sabana. Dheranda Samhita, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pratyahara, Pranayama. This is reality. Unless there is pratyahar to some extent, the pranayam will not ensue. And therefore he puts pratyahar before pranayam. So he has also the limbs of yoga, but he puts pratyahar before, while Patanjali puts it after. So this is something that we should understand the whys about it. No, nobody is wrong. It's not like Dheranda is right and therefore Patanjali is wrong, or Patanjali is right, therefore Dheranda is wrong. Both are right. So they have given different perspective. That unless you have some pratyahar, your pranayam will not commence. It won't be authentic, genuine pranayam. To some degree, there will be pratyahar. So when you read this text, you realize how yoga was differently interpreted and what can come good today and what is possible for me. Not only today, but what is possible for me. So that will open out certain portals for my pursuit of yoga.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On the Light. One of the things I love about Prashantji's teaching is that he always turns philosophy into personal inquiry. Rather than simply studying the history of yoga, he reminds us to examine our own history with honesty, humility, and objectivity. I'm looking forward to seeing how the conversation on this topic evolves, and I hope you do as well. If you enjoy On the Light, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Click on Support the Show in the show notes. A small monthly donation helps support the continued production of this podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening. Namaskar.